Why are people mad that some student loan debt is getting forgiven? The real problem is the cost of education. Paying off people's debt doesn't address the problem. Tuition and housing at a state school shouldn't cost 20 to 30K per year. Lots of fat to cut at these universities, but as long as people can keep taking out loans and pay the inflated costs they charge, nothing will change. Republican Gov. Walker in Wisconsin froze tuition for a number of years, forcing the schools to spend within their means. People don't realize how great that was for students. I'm upset because we aren't fixing the problem. The problem with student loan debt is interest. I think the government should only charge enough interest to cover the cost of administrating the loans. The bigger problem, though, is interest on student loans compounds daily. That means every day the system figures out how much you accrued in interest and adds it to the principal balance. Now it accrues interest too. It makes it very damn hard to get ahead. Student loans should be simple interest loans like mortgages and car loans. Then the borrowers have a fighting chance at repayment. I wish they'd forgive medical debt. A point I'm not seeing mentioned here is that the forgiveness is up to 10K for those families making less than 125K. Poor people could do with economic support for sure. Then there's people who just didn't start college because it's too expensive. That's a systemic problem. Finally, there's a group who paid off their fees and sees this forgiveness as being punished for their hard work. They are right to think so. I agree with a commenter who says this is a political stunt. To be honest, the anti-Trump sentiment was enough to get Biden into power. It was the only thing going for him. But it's not enough to keep him there, due to which he must resort to appeasement and manipulation instead of fixing his country. Lol. Economically speaking, student loan forgiveness is not the most efficient method of government spending. In terms of the economic multiplier, for those who did not study economics, the economic multiplier is essentially how much output in GDP for each dollar spent. Student loan forgiveness will have minimal impact on GDP growth compared to, say, an infrastructure project. This is purely coming from an economic standpoint. People who've chosen not to incur debt or have paid off their debt will have to pay for other people's debt, which they voluntarily entered into. Why are people mad? There are many reasons, but here is the main one. Our national debt is $13 trillion. And instead of adding more debt in the form of student debt forgiveness, we should figure out ways to pay it off. If you think about it, all they are doing is transferring debt from one person, the student, to many U.S. citizens. Instead of an individual assuming the debt, we are transferring it to an entire nation that didn't ask for it or receive any benefit from it. It's not my responsibility or future generations' responsibility to pay for someone else's debt. If the U.S. had a balanced budget, then yeah, it would be optimal to wipe the slate clean and give young people a leg up. But we don't. We just keep adding more and more debt to the balance sheet. When will it end? When we as a nation go bankrupt. And that is coming. Why did Joe decide to forgive the loan debt now? The midterms are coming up and Democrats are lagging behind. He is trying to buy votes. Plain and simple. Because some people paid for their school themselves and did not take out loans, they are getting nothing. Some people see people who incurred debt and managed their money poorly as being rewarded. Not saying this is me, but it is the logic. Because it is not forgiven, it is paid off with money that the taxpayers have to repay. Because it's not the taxpayer's responsibility to pay off your debt. Because it's a huge national wealth transfer to pay off voluntary individual debt. I've always thought that whenever a bank gets federal money, then they should cancel some debt. Also, the way I look at it is that I pay taxes and would like to use some of the taxes I paid toward something that would benefit me instead of the billions spent on stuff I would rather my money not go toward. I didn't go to school because I thought I was being responsible by not racking up tens or hundreds of thousands in debt. If I knew it was going to be forgiven, I would have went to school. Basically, the lesson is be irresponsible, because it gets rewarded better than being responsible. The money came from somewhere and the debt doesn't just evaporate. Federal loans, as the name suggests, are paid out by the government. That's your tax dollars. The school collects that money in the form of tuition, books, room, board, etc. Canceling the debt means that those billions of dollars that were supposed to go back into the government budget via loan repayments will not go back into the budget, meaning taxes will go up in the same amount. So a student who took out loans, albeit predatory ones, will have a measure of relief. But taxes for the majority are expected to rise. I've seen estimates in the $2,000 range. Although I'm not an economist, so I can't speak to the accuracy of that. Because it's all a farce. Nothing is actually being forgiven. The amount that is being forgiven is now divided up amongst the rest of the taxpayers to bear to the burden. It rubs these people the wrong way. 1. People who couldn't afford college. 2. People who paid off their loans. 3. People who chose not to attend college. 4. People who undertook alternative measures to get college paid for, like joining the military. Me. In this case, if someone didn't value their time in college enough to pay for it afterward, then I don't value your time in college enough to want to pay for it either. Your body, your choice, then your loans, your payments. If we want to solve the problem, we need to address predatory lending and predatory tuition hikes. Makes the universities with multi-billion-dollar endowments pay for the loans. There is no such thing as free money. Someone always pays. I don't get the big deal about the student loan forgiveness. My $20,000 isn't going away? My friends who are in the trenches aren't getting their loans decreased. My main issue is that it's such an obvious ploy to get some votes in November. Most of those that are benefiting from this loan forgiveness are recent college grads. So he's just making sure he shores up that group to vote his way. But he's using my money to buy those votes. That's what pisses me off. People are mad for all of the wrong reasons. When banks, corporations, and members of Congress get millions of dollars in PPP loans that didn't have to be repaid, no one batted an eye. Now, when people who normally don't receive government assistance, which keep in mind our taxes pay for, folks are up in arms because it doesn't benefit them. We all pay taxes for things that have no benefit to us. I don't have kids but pay for schools, education, and meals at local schools. BC education is important. I'm not sitting here asking for my refund of my taxes because people chose to have kids, which bears no impact on my life. For some reason, people think that they are going to have to pay a fee on their taxes this year BC of this, which is ridiculous in itself. BC that was never stated to be. But here we are. Because of the reasoning, timing and downplaying of the more serious issue.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. TooAfraidToAsk is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.